This is the Padua Podcast Network.
I mean, in one simple conversation, God was saying, what roadblock? You don't have a roadblock.
Thriving in the Trenches. It's the podcast where you will hear stories from real people with real purpose, all for a God who loves us with a real love. The Trenches, where life isn't always easy, but it is a place for women to be encouraged and equipped to uniquely and universally serve Christ in their feminine vocation. So, together, let's go deeper in our faith in God, in His church, and in our friendships. You are welcome here.
Welcome to Thriving in the Trenches podcast. This is Becky Carter, and I am your podcast host. I am quite a bit humbled to be here and very honored to be back on the airwaves. I don't know, is that how you really say that? But I'm also a little freaked out. As you know, I have been co-hosting this podcast for a couple of years now with Megan Schreiber. And we have just had so many different changes this past year. And we've both made lots of different transitions. And so it was just, we had to take a big break and figure out, where's the Lord leading us? And what is He asking of us next? And so many of you may know, if you follow me on Instagram or anything, that we decided that it was the right time after homeschooling for, 9 years, that it was time to put our kids in school. We had just kind of hit a spot where we weren't making progress. Things weren't going well anymore for us, and it was time. It was time for everybody to have a little bit of a break from that. And I will not lie, it has been a very, very difficult transition. Learning how to be in the classroom, learning how to do homework at night. It's just been really tough on our family, but we have rallied. We have had great support from our school, from our friends. And just as a family, I can't say enough thank yous to my husband for going to work all day and then coming home and putting on his math hat because I could not do it by myself for sure. So anyway, that's kind of what's been going on around here. We've just been new life. I'm also working up at the school part-time in the mornings, sitting in the kindergarten room with those kindergartners, and they're really sweet guys, but they crack me up. And there's so many times that I just am reminded of God's goodness, but then just all these little souls, all these little in real life souls that I get to be with, and these little image bearers of Jesus, and I get to bear the image of Jesus to them. It's just been a really special treat for me. It's been completely did not see this coming in my life, but it has been a blessing. It has definitely been a hard one, but I think we're coming out of it. So things are getting easier. And I kept just praying, Lord, what do you want for me? I mean, I had no time to think about a podcast. That was for sure. I had to really come home and love on my family in a different way. And that was such a sweet time. But as the end of the year, and I kept feeling the Lord tell me, I'm not going to give you an answer until after the first of the year. So just enjoy your family. Just do what I'm asking you to do today. And so I did. And I trusted that He would have an answer. And guess what? He answered me after the first of the year. But I'd really love to kind of share the story of how it all happened, because it's such a beautiful witness to God's goodness, and that He really knows what's going to happen tomorrow, and He knows what's going to happen next year and 10 years down the line. So last year, I started the Called and Gifted class by the, I think it's the Catherine of Avila Institute at my local church, my local parish. And just kind of learning what are our charisms and some of the things that came up that I scored high on that appeared to be a true charism or gift, calling of the Lord, was teaching and evangelism. I think humor was on there. No, I'm just kidding. But I knew with the podcast how much this fit into that calling, those gifts. I was like, okay, I'm on the right track. Well, I don't know. It was maybe the second time we met together, and a gentleman was sitting at my desk and at our table, or at the same table as me. And I knew him. He had worked with my husband. And I also knew him from just some other run-ins and seeing him at different parish events and such. And he said, "Hey, I heard you have a podcast." And I don't really talk about my podcast in real life. I don't know why. I just don't. I don't know. I feel like maybe I have a different life hiding here in my closet with a microphone. But he said, I don't know how he even heard. He said, "But I heard you had a podcast." I said, "Yeah, I do. And he goes, "Well, yeah, I mean, I'd love to talk to you if you need any help with producing." And at that time, Megan was doing everything and a great job. And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's great. Thanks. Right now, I think we kind of got our groove going, but all right, thanks. I'll keep that in mind." So fast forward to, I don't know, maybe 8, 9, 10 months later. And we had already paused the podcast, and I get an email from this same gentleman, and he says, "Hey, we are doing a podcast network locally here in our area, and we would like for you to start podcasting again so we could put you on our network." And I said, "Well, I'm really taking a break right now. I'm discerning, but these are my hurdles." I couldn't record. Megan did all that because she had all the hardware and software and the skills to do all that. And so anyway, I just kind of laid it out there. Well, these are my stumbling blocks. This is what is going to technically keep me from podcasting. So I'd have to figure all those things out. And I'm not going to lie, again, we're still in the trenches of math homework and grammar homework and studying and physics and big things. And I was like, I can't even wrap my mind around it. It makes me want to crawl in a hole and rock back and forth to even think about figuring all that out. And so these two gentlemen looked at me and said, "Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't fix any of those stumbling blocks. We can do all that." So basically, I mean, in one simple conversation, God was saying, "What roadblock? You don't have a roadblock." Now, then I had to just decide to do it. I mean, I always had Megan to bounce off of, and we all know she's full of wisdom, full of great things to say. I mean, it would really be on me to carry a conversation. I mean, I love to talk, but I didn't know if I could do it on my own. So I just kind of pondered. This winter, I really hit a time of, I would say, spiritual dryness. I don't know exactly what threw me there, but I was there. And I would say probably a lack of confidence in, hearing the whispers of the sly one, the liar of all liars. And I just kind of submerged myself in the darkness of winter. I actually wrote an article for the Register I'll add it to the show notes. It was called Abide and Arise. So I just was abiding. Things were happening under the ground in the darkness. I couldn't see it. No one could see it, but I knew it was there. I never lost faith. I never stopped asking. I never stopped putting my hands out and saying, "What do you want from me, Lord? I will go wherever you want me to go. I will do whatever you want me to do." Now, it's easy to say those things, but did I really believe that? Was I really ready to do it? I don't know. But I just took the next steps. Whatever the day was calling for me to do, I just did it. Then I had a friend from home, known her since high school. And she said, "Hey, there's this conference down in Lafayette, Louisiana. Let's go." Well, it just so happens, being from Baton Rouge, I was happy to go back home, but it was also a good friend of mine that was helping to put the conference on. And the Lord completely worked it out because they were sold out. I mean, there were so many details there, but I said, "Lord, if you want me there, you're going to have to work out the details." And he did. And I went. And so I drove in my car for 9 hours by myself. Glorious. And I listened to podcasts. I had phone calls. And the Lord in that week or in that day, he opened the soil and let the light shine in. I really felt him pouring his light, his consolations into me. And I had some of the most beautiful conversations with friends. I had been receiving messages about previous podcast episodes. I received a book in the mail that had a personal note and said, I'm ready to be your podcast guest. There were so many little words of affirmation pushing me forward to say yes. So when it was time, I was just flooded, but still apprehensive. Anyway, so I go to this conference, and it's called Abiding, or the Abide Conference. And that's what I realized I had been doing all this time. I had just been abiding in him, letting him shoot his grace and energy and life into me, his branch. I made sure that I stayed grafted on to the root, the vine, to the Lord. But I promise you, I felt like I looked like a dead branch. I don't say that to get sympathy or anything. It's just where I was. We all have those times. It's part of our spiritual growth, and it's okay. But as I walked through that weekend, meeting several different people, just letting the Lord feed me that weekend. And then at the end of it, one of the founders of the conference, she says, "So, Becky, when are you going to have us on your podcast?" And I said, "Yeah, we're going to do that." And I just knew it was time. It was time for me to arise. As I came home from the conference in the next couple of weeks, as I said yes, and I was gearing up, I knew that I had a lot to do to really get it going. I wanted to make it fresh and new, but I didn't want to change what we had been doing. I loved what we had been doing. I loved the topics that we talked about. I love that we were feasting on the meat of our faith and not just drinking the milk and still being hungry for more. So one day I was driving up into my driveway and I noticed all the crocuses coming up out of the ground. They're one of the first flowers that start blooming It was still cold and rainy, but it was such a testimony. And I felt like the Lord said, it's time to arise. It's time to arise. And so here I am. I am ready to arise. And I want you to come along with me. Like I said, new music, new intro, new words, new logo, trying to work on the new website, new everything. But at the core of who I am is at the core of this podcast. Always has been. I want to be the woman that encourages you to be the woman you're called to be. I want to be the woman that God uses to equip you to be the woman you are called to be. Still unique we are, but still called to the universal calling of holiness, to be whole in Christ. So I want to share stories with you, stories from people who are genuinely in love with Jesus, and they are feeding on him so that they might have eternal life and that they might share that eternal life with you and me. So here I am. I want to invite you to come along. I think I'm still going to just record every other week, but I may do some of these little monologues in between. If I can do that, I think I'd like to do that. But if I can't, I just have to still focus on my family. I want to say thank you to my husband, who has supported me every step of the way. It's not been easy for him either. Doing this stuff takes time away, but I'm telling you, I am who I am. I know the things that I know because he feeds me with it. He teaches me. So a huge thank you to Michael Davis and Tom Rohr of the Padua Podcast Network. They are the ones who encouraged me to get back in the saddle. They encouraged me to do this, and they made it possible. So thank you. Thank you for your words of encouragement. Thank you for all that you've done, all your patience, Michael, and in the production side, and just for loving Christ and loving others and doing what you're doing. So I hope to hear from you. You know, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I am there on Twitter, but not really. One day that I'll get better at that platform, or you know what? I won't, because it just isn't really me. But I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear topic suggestions. Don't forget that I need encouragement too. As I encourage you, I ask your encouragement. Just let me know that you're out there and that you're listening. And I'm telling you that your words, your private messages, running into people in real life, emails, text messages, words where people share with me how God has used this podcast to help them, to change them, to convert them in some way that needed to be converting, healed in some way. That's how I knew that it was time to arise. So, I guess we'll get started. And my first guess really was going to be my first podcast, not this crazy Becky monologue. I didn't want it to be about me. I wanted to be about God's work. And hopefully I've still been able to convey that to you, even through just me sharing But Cox Cable got in the way, And the last 2 times that we tried to record this first interview that I wanted to share with you, my internet just went down and it crashed hard for hours and hours. So hopefully that'll be the next episode that I will get to share with you. And I'm looking forward to it. I just want to encourage you all to ask the Lord what He's calling you to. What is He asking you to do? So you can abide in Him. And when it is time, you too will arise. But on this feast of St. Joseph, it is actually the 2-year anniversary of the birth of our podcast. So it was really important for me to give you the first episode on that date. May God redeem all things that you are doing. May He redeem all places that we are failing even. God redeems even our failures. But I'm thankful that you are here, and I'm excited about this journey. So follow me, Instagram, Facebook. Check out the website. We have community on both Instagram and what's that thing called? Facebook. And you can join the conversation there. Thanks for coming.